In Jacob chapter 5, we read the allegory, Zenos' allegory of the tame and wild olive trees. And I wanted to provide you with some background and a way to look at that allegory. I believe that the allegory has a lot more or broader application than what I'm going to share with you. But I wanted to give you this information and suggest this way of seeing the allegory in action so that it might be more meaningful to you, and also so that you might find other ways to see its application generally and in your life specifically. The way I wanted to do that is by talking about the concept of the archetype. An archetype is the original pattern or model from which all things of the same kind are copied or on which they are based. So you might think of it as a first form or as a prototype, but it's really a little bit more of an amorphous concept. It's you have archetypes and you can have the original. For example, in this video, I'm going to talk about Moses and the exodus of the children of Israel from Egypt as the archetype. So I won't go into detail about that story, but I will refer to it. So let's think of the archetype as a pattern, and let's talk about the patterns that we see, and the specific patterns I'm going to talk about after I do the archetype are the patterns that start in First Nephi and go through really Mosiah chapter 1 in the Book of Mormon. So let's go about it this way. I think an effective way to see the pattern is to consider the people involved. So I'm going to chat here about 8 groups of people. So group number 1, that's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So the agreement between God and mankind for the salvation of souls is referred to as the Abrahamic covenant, which God began with Abraham and renewed with Isaac and Jacob. God promises to provide a Savior to atone for the sins of mankind and to provide redemption from the fall of Adam. Mankind, in turn, promises to keep God's commandments. The Abrahamic covenant is the thread now that connects all of true Scripture, and that's going to connect the archetypes and the archetypal journeys that we see in the people that we're going to talk about here in just a second. So the first group is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or the patriarchal fathers. The second group that emanates from them is the group called the children of Israel. The children of Israel were the direct descendants of Abraham through Jacob. God renamed Jacob Israel. The children of Israel was divided into 12 tribes, defined by the number and names of the sons of Jacob/Israel. The Egyptians held the children of Israel captive. The children of Israel expected deliverance by the hand of the Lord, and the deliverer the Lord provided was Moses. The Lord, through Moses, delivered the children of Israel in what is called the Exodus. As part of the Exodus, the children of Israel left their homes in Egypt, traveled through the wilderness, and arrived in the Promised Land. Along the way, Moses obtained revelation from God, recorded it, and taught it to the children of Israel. The law of Moses was the set of God's commandments the children of Israel were to keep in honoring their part of the Abrahamic covenant. The law of Moses remained operative until it was fulfilled by Jesus through the atonement. The story of Moses and the Exodus in the Bible provides an archetype for several similar events that are recorded on the Small Plates of Nephi, contained in the Book of Mormon as 1 Nephi through Omni. Applying Zenos' allegory from Jacob 5, we may consider the children of Israel to be the original olive tree, both roots and branches. The third group of people to talk about is the Jewish nation. In time, the children of Israel divided into two branches, 10 of the 12 tribes constituting the nation of Israel, and the remaining two being the nation of the Jews. The 10 tribes scattered. The Jews remained headquartered in Jerusalem. The Book of Mormon starts in Jerusalem during the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, the last monarch of the Jewish nation. Now again, applying Zenos' allegory from Jacob 5, we may consider the Jewish nation to be a branch of the original olive tree, and we also may consider the 10 tribes to be scattered branches of the original olive tree. Let's go to group 4, the people of Lehi. In the first year of the reign of Zedekiah over the Jewish nation, God warned a prophet named Lehi to flee from Jerusalem. God foresaw that Jerusalem would soon be overrun by the Babylonians and brought into subjection by them. Lehi took his family, the family of Ishmael, and a man named Zoram into the wilderness, ultimately arriving in the promised land that we understand to be the American continent. According to the Book of Mormon, the people of Lehi arrived in the, quote, land southward, end quote. Now again, applying Zenos' allegory from Jacob 5, we may consider the people of Lehi to be a branch of the olive tree because they broke off from the branch that was called the nation of the Jews, or the Jewish nation. Let's go to the fifth group of people now that we are encountering in this first section of the Book of Mormon. Those are the people of Mulek. Lehi was not the only person in Jerusalem at the time of Zedekiah's reign, and also immediately prior to the Babylonian captivity, who God warned to depart into the wilderness. Mulek, one of Zedekiah's sons, received and heeded the same warning, and departed with those who would follow him into the wilderness. The people of Mulek arrived on the American continent in what the Book of Mormon calls the land northward. So now we have the people of Mulek as another branch of the original olive tree that's been broken off and planted in another part of the world. Let's talk now about the sixth group. We'll call it the people of Nephi. Upon arrival in the land southward, the people of Lehi began to separate themselves according to their willingness to follow God's commandments. These two divisions are represented by two of Lehi's sons, Laman and Nephi. Laman was Lehi's oldest son, who, according to custom, was to take the leadership position in the family upon Lehi's death. Laman is portrayed as one who found it difficult to keep God's commandments, which may have resulted from his prideful resentment of his younger brother Nephi, who actually assumed a leadership position in admonishing his family to obey God and in teaching his family about the gospel. After the people of Lehi arrived in the promised land and Lehi died, Nephi was warned of God to depart into the wilderness with all those who would keep the commandments, to avoid persecution from the remainder. Those who followed Nephi into the wilderness were called the people of Nephi. The remainder came to be known as Lamanites. As the small plates end, we learn that the people of Nephi at the time of the prophet Jacob have begun to labor in sin, that contentions among the people have become common, that wars with the Lamanites have become frequent, and that this commotion has the effect of fulfilling God's covenant on the American continent that only the righteous would inhabit and prosper on it. So now, applying Zenos' allegory from Jacob 5, we can refer to the people of Nephi as another branch that is broken off and planted in a different part of the vineyard. Let's now go to our seventh group of people. That group we call the people of Mosiah. Amidst the unrest within the people of Nephi, a righteous man named Mosiah is warned by the Lord to depart into the wilderness. He and all those willing to keep the commandments depart. In the course of wandering in the wilderness, the people of Mosiah discover another group of people called the people of Zarahemla. So the people of Mosiah now is another branch broken off, planted elsewhere, as identified in the allegory in Jacob 5. The last group of people I've already mentioned are the people of Zarahemla. Zarahemla was a descendant of Mulek. The remnant of those who followed Mulek, the people of Mulek who followed Mulek out of Jerusalem into the land northward, were known as the people of Zarahemla. So now we have a further branch broken off of the original tree. Well, let me try to put this now into some context other than mere definitions. The original group was the children of Israel under the leadership of Moses. God, through Moses, delivered the children of Israel from Egyptian captivity. In time, 10 of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel were scattered and lost, while the remaining 2 tribes, the Jewish nation, remained in Jerusalem. As the Jewish nation was about to be conquered by the Babylonians under Nebuchadnezzar, Lehi and Mulek were separately warned of God to flee into the wilderness. Those who followed Lehi are called the people of Lehi, and those who followed Mulek are called the people of Mulek. The remnant of the people of Mulek is the people of Zarahemla. God brings the people of Lehi and the people of Mulek/Zarahemla to the promised land, which we know as the American continent. The people of Lehi arriving in the land southward, and the people of Mulek/Zarahemla arriving in the land northward. We have no record of the people of Mulek/Zarahemla until we reach the book of Omni in the Book of Mormon. The record of the people of Lehi is contained in 1 Nephi. Upon arrival in the promised land and upon the death of Lehi, the people of Lehi split into 2 groups, the righteous branch being the people of Nephi, and the remainder being generally called Lamanites. The remainder of the record on the small plates of Nephi from about 2nd Nephi through Omni is a record of the people of Nephi. As the people of Nephi become corrupt and ungodly, God directs another division through Mosiah, who leads his group of righteous people into the wilderness, eventually discovering and joining with the people of Zarahemla. Initially, the people of Mosiah and the people of Zarahemla are not able to verbally communicate, even though they had common ancestors. This is because the people of Mulek did not take any records with them. Their language became corrupt, and they ceased believing in God. In contrast, the people of Lehi took the brass plates, which were retained by the people of Nephi and the people of Mosiah. Mosiah teaches the people of Zarahemla, and eventually the 2 peoples unite. They select Mosiah as their king. Mosiah confers the kingdom on his son Benjamin, who is a righteous man. Benjamin teaches his 3 sons from the brass plates, labors with his own hands, and is diligent in keeping God's commandments. Applying Zenos' allegory from Jacob 5, we can see branches of God's original covenant people being broken off from the main body of the tree and being relocated throughout the world. We can also see the process of grafting in played out in the uniting of the people of Mosiah and the people of Zarahemla. When we pick up the story in Mosiah 1, King Benjamin has conferred the kingdom on his son Mosiah and plans a coronation address in which he plans to introduce Mosiah as the new king and to give the united peoples of Mosiah and Zarahemla a name to distinguish them from others. And we'll pick up with that in another video.